The next episode in our series is titled Italy's Fascist UFO Files. If these documents from the Mussolini era are authentic, and the research so far shows they are, then the history of official ufology doesn't begin in America in the late 40s, but in Italy in the 30s. It is important to point out that these were the original papers and not photocopies or photos of the documents. That means that forensic analysis of the paper, ink, and aging process can be conducted, which cannot be done with copies. According to a thorough investigation conducted by Antonio Garavaglia, a forensic expert accredited with the Italian Ministry of Justice, they are authentic. I myself met Garavaglia at the San Marino UFO Symposium in 2000, where he told me in an interview, quote, "Listen, I'm not a UFO expert, and I can only comment about these specific documents which I myself analyze, and I have to tell you, they are authentic," end quote. Additional research done by Andrea Bedetti, a historian and expert on Italy's fascist era, found that the stationary, aeronautical terminology, and vocabulary were all consistent with real documents from the period. As sightings of objects referred in the documents as, quote, "unconventional flying vehicles," end quote, were reported throughout Italy, the fascist regime created a secret committee to investigate and cover up these incidents. The committee was known as Cabinet RS-33 and was led by Italy's top scientist, the renowned inventor Guglielmo Marconi, until his death in 1937. The unraveling of this fascinating story began in the mid-90s, when the famous Italian ufologist and author Roberto Pinotti received a series of documents on stationery bearing the seal of the kingdom's Senate and Agenza Stefani, the regime news agency in charge of disseminating fascist propaganda. Pinotti explained this affair in an exclusive interview with myself during the International UFO Congress in February of 2012.
The story of the so-called fascist files began in 1997. We received from an unknown source. This guy said he was a relative of a man who had taken part in a committee during the fascist era for the study of UFOs. Of course, at that time, UFOs were not called so. The name the regime chose for them was unconventional flying vehicles. And this commission, headed by Guglielmo Marconi, was built up by Mussolini only because he thought that these new flying devices might be simply a new technical means of any other European country, that is England, France, Germany. And so the purpose of this group was just to study and to copy the technology of these new aerial vehicles.
One of the documents from 1936 was a report from a secret agent using the name of Andrea, Andrew in Italian, who wrote, quote, "It was sighted in the morning of Monday. It was a metallic disc, polished and reflecting light, with a length of 10 or 12 meters. Two fighters from a near base took off, but were not able to reach it, even at 130 kilometers per hour. It didn't emit sound. It has arrived to the hands of Ciano." Count Ciano was Mussolini's son-in-law and Italy's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Andrea's report adds that after passing over Mestre, it was seen as a sort of metallic gray tube, and that one witness described it, quote, "like a kind of aerial torpedo with very clear windows and alternating white and red lights," end quote. The document mentioned the prefecture opened an inquiry and that the Duce, Mussolini, has expressed his worries because he says that if it were a matter of real English or French aircraft, his foreign policy would have to start all over again. As you can see, the contents of Andrea's report are sensational. They describe a classic flying saucer daytime incident with aircraft scramble and multiple witnesses in 1936. It also discloses that Mussolini and Ciano, Italy's #1 and 2 leaders, were informed right away. One of the most interesting facets of the Fascist UFO files was the alleged creation of the top-secret cabinet RS-33, led by Marconi, which included some of Italy's most prominent astronomers, scientists, and aeronautical engineers. Professor Filippo Bottazzi was an important member of the cabinet. He was a top physiologist who studied mediumistic phenomena at the turn of the 20th century and had known the astronomer Schiaparelli, discoverer of the famous canals of Mars. Alfredo Lissoni, who wrote a book about the Mussolini files with Pinotti, also uncovered real documents in the Italian archives confirming the reporting system for sightings in the 30s. He also uncovered a cryptic reference in a speech by Mussolini in 1941, whose content was never adequately understood until now. In the speech, the Duce said, quote, "It's more likely that the United States will be invaded by unknown but warlike inhabitants from the planet Mars who will come down from the starry space on unimaginable flying fortresses than from the soldiers of the Axis." End quote. As things began to go sour for Italy during the war, all the files from Cabinet RS-33 were supposedly shipped to Nazi Germany, where they might have influenced the Italian aeronautical engineer Belluzzo, who worked with the Germans on creating a flying disc. But that is another story. For your Need to Know, this is Antonio Huneeus.